welcome to the video on parallel lines and their angles. What we learned in class about parallel lines is, first of all, that there are two lines that have the same slope and they don't intersect. So they're two lines that just pretty much go on forever and ever and ever, and they look kind of like this here. Okay, and we see a couple pairs behind me. We see these two lines are parallel. They have the arrow marks on them. You see them in blue. This has two arrows, that's fine. You can also have just one set of arrows, that's also fine. But it does mean those lines are parallel, so they're never going to intersect. And the cool thing about parallel lines is that it makes calculating angles very easy. Like in each one of these pictures, you see a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 angles. Same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But in reality, there's only 2 different angles. Okay? 4 of them are the same and 4 others are the same. So let me show you how that works. Basically, when you have 2 parallel lines such as this, I already know that this should be the same as that. They should be vertical. And that these two should also be vertical. What's nice about parallel lines is that these 4 angles are the exact same as these 4 angles. I could pretty much pick these up and put them on top of these, or just slide them down, and it would work perfectly. Okay? These actually have specific names, like this angle here and this angle here. These are the same, kind of like how this would have just went right on top of that. And this would have gone right on top of this. So it kind of like plays hopscotch. It jumps down and across, down and across, down and across. Okay, it has to go over this line each time. This line's called the transversal, by the way. Same thing here. This one goes down and across to its congruent angle, down and across to its congruent angle, down and across to its congruent angle. Okay? So automatically, if I told you this angle was 70, then you need to fill in 3 other angles. This is 70, this is 70, this is 70, and this is 70. And vice versa. If you knew this was 70, well, by linear pairs, you should know this is 110, so this is 110, so this is 110, so this is 110. There you go. 110, 110, 110, 110, 70, 70, 70, 70. That's basically how this works. It works with expressions, too. So as soon as you see this problem, you can go ahead and start labeling things as you go along. Well, I'm going to start with one of these. I'm going to give it a congruent mark. I'm going to do it in another color. I'm going to say this is congruent to this one because they're vertical. This is congruent to this one and this one. These 2 angles are specifically called alternate because they're on opposite sides of the transversal. Interior because they're between the parallel lines angles. Alternate interior angles, these are alternate exterior angles. They're on opposite sides and they're outside of the parallel lines. And they're all congruent. And vice versa, all the angles I'm about to do in red are congruent. So the nice thing about this is that anywhere you see this red mark, I can put this now. Anywhere you see this orange mark, I can put this now. So I'm going to put them in places that I like. I want one of these to be up here or one of these to be down here because I can do things with linear pairs or I can do things with vertical angles. So I'm going to take one of these red marks and put it right there next to this one. 23x plus 7. Now they're a linear pair. Now these 2 angles form a straight line and I can add them up and I should get 180. So that'll work nicely. And I'll do that. So let's see. 23x plus 7 plus 12x minus 2, that should give me 180. 23x plus 7 plus 12x minus 2 should give me 180. Alright, so I've written down the equation, now it's time to combine like terms. 23x, 12x, if I combine them, I do get 35x. And then I look to my constants, I've got positive 7, I've got negative 2, 7 minus 2 is 5, so I get plus 5 there. And then I bring down the 180. After this step, I just go on. I'm doing 35 times x plus 5. So I have to do the opposite of these things. I have to subtract 5, canceling them. I get 35x equals 175. And then I divide both sides by 35. Since that's at 35 times x, I do the opposite. I divide by 35. When you divide this, you do get that x happens to be 5, I believe. Yeah, x is 5. So if you went back in and plugged this in, all of these would work. Let's see. 12 times x, which really means 12 times 5. That means this angle here is 60 minus 2, 58, sorry, forgot the 2. So that this is 58, and this is 58, and this is 58. Well, hopefully this works. Let's see what the right angle is. 23 times 5. 23 times 5, that's going to give me 115. 115 plus 7, that's going to give me 122. So all the red angles are 122. I should really check if this is right before I actually write them all in, but let's see. Just one pair, 122 plus 58. Is that 180? Yeah, so I did it right. This is 180, that's 180, that's 180, that's 180, that's 180, that's 180, that's 180. It worked. Awesome. Let's see that other example. It might be the same kind, it might not be. Let's look at it to be sure if it's the same or not. So again, you've got a set of parallel lines, this time they're slanted, but same thing happens. Pick any angle and label its vertical. Okay, so I'm going to label this one, and I'm going to label this one. I'm going to move this to the side a little bit so it's not in the way. I know these are congruent, and that was an 8x plus 14. Let me write it here. And then I can pretty much slide these down. Now these two are congruent as well. Okay? And then all the other angles are different. I'll give them 2 tick marks on my arcs instead. Tell them apart. And we look at these symbols and we've got to determine what this means. So I see a red mark here and a red mark here. Well, when we did vertical angles, when we saw the same congruent mark, we saw that these were congruent. So that means they're equal. So you're not going to add these. These are the same angle. They might add up to something, but I don't know what that is. However, I know that they're the same, I know that they're equal, so I'm going to set them equal to each other. I'm going to say 8x plus 14 equals 12x minus 46, or vice versa. All right? So I can write that out. 8x plus 14 equals, don't add it to anything, equals 12x minus 46. And then at this point we solve an equation just like we've always solved equations. You've got x's on both sides, that's no good. So I got to move some x's somewhere, I got to get x's on one side. This is my smaller x, I'm going to move this guy. Not that you couldn't move the 12x, but I think it's easier to move the smaller one. You keep your x positive, so you don't have to divide by a negative later, because I know a lot of people forget that. So the 8's cancel when I subtract 8x from both sides. I'm left with 14 on the left. 12x minus 8x is 4x. And then I bring down my minus 46, or negative 46. So now my x is on the right, whereas over here was on the left. Not a big deal though. I still need x alone. I'm subtracting 46 from it, so I've got to add 46 to both sides. Add it here, add it here. These will cancel. 14 plus 46 gives me 60, equals 4x. And my very last step, since it says 4 times x, is to divide by 4. Divide by 4, which should tell us that x is 15. Let me just make sure you guys can see that on the camera. Yeah, you can see that. Okay. So x is 15, and we're going to plug in just to make sure we're right. Let's see. 8 times 15, that's going to give me, what's it's going to give me 120. And 120 plus 4 should give me 134. So I find out this angle is 134 degrees. Alright. Yeah, okay. This angle here is 12 times x, which is 12 times 15 minus 46. 12 times 15 is 180. 180 minus 46 is also 134. So it worked. This is perfect. These angles are supposed to be congruent, and they indeed are. So I can fill in this is 134 and this is 134 if I wanted to. If I was asked about the other orange angles, I could figure them out too. And the reason I can figure that out is because all of these angles form linear pairs. If this is 134, this has to be 180 minus 134, which we know is 46. And they add to 180. So all the orange angles, 46, 46, 46. If I asked you about any one of those angles, you should be able to tell me that they're either 134 or 46. I hope that answered any questions you might have. That about wraps up for this video on parallel lines and their angles. And that should just about do it. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the box below. Email me, talk to me in class. Any of those work. and I'll be sure to get back to you or answer your question then.